back to another work explanation vlog. I am very excited to bring another vlog like this because I just love explaining about my work, explaining the process and the meanings that it has in my work. Because majority of my works are done in a very fast period of time where I really don't have, or just forget about filming myself. But I just create a lot of work in this certain focused time of period, and there's a lot to show, and very excited to share the creative process, the mediums, the techniques, and the meanings behind it. So this is a medium-sized work. It's about 26 by 26 inch on about a 1/4 inch wooden panel. It was a wooden panel that I think I got it at Home Depot as a 4x4, and I cut it by quarters. And you might have seen my other series like this with the yellow tone and the arches. I have about 2 other series that looks very similar to this, but they're currently hung at school, and one of them I think it's in, oh, they're both hung at school. So when they come back, I'm excited to show you guys in the series. But this one is, as I worked before, it's usually based from a fashion photography that I took of Priscilla, and I only used, I think, her torso part of the photograph, and after that I stuck collage and fabric to create that hanbok, and rest was plaster, modeling paste to create that texture, and acrylic paint and oil paint. I wanted to really enhance that Asian aesthetic at this series, so I was looking into some Joseon period antique Korean paintings, and there are many categories of Joseon paintings, but one of them is called botanical antique Korean painting, and how they do is they overlay watercolor over and over with a very, very thin layer until it's actually vivid, and there's like more than 10 layers. I don't think I did 10 layer, but I really tried to mimic that with my acrylic paint. I went in by just tracing the sketch of these water lilies, and went in with thin watered acrylic paint to really enhance that. And it took a really long time, but this was the first and last time I actually did this kind of technique. I do think really try to pull this out more because I really like that Asian or Korean aesthetic that shows, but it has a palette that's almost impressionistic or Western. So I try to mix and match that together. And in terms of my inspirations and the content that I used, everything is from my own photographs. The face and the cat was actually from a photo shoot that I did with a model, my friend Grace, and it was her cat. I forgot her name. I forgot the cat's name, but the cat visited at the studio, and of course I took photos of the cat, and I thought it'd be nice to just add a little creature. I always incorporate some kind of animal or botanicals in my portrait because I love portraying or creating a new world with my portraiture, kind of emphasizing the new world or environment that's only in my head. And other than that, you see like little strips of something that you see, so it's like all collage. So all the things that's kind of seeing under the paint, it's all collage. It's scrapbook paper, it's old books that I have, it's my journal prompts, or whatever paper that I don't use. I just like to create a thin layer of texture under the paint because I like to see that texture emerge from the paint. And the overall concept that I had, that I realized after I created this, I usually don't have a specific concept or theme before I go into the work. I kind of let my intuitions or just my unconsciousness unfold and then see where this could lie in terms of the books that I'm reading, the thoughts that I have, the meditations that I have, or the things that I've been thinking about, because it comes from whatever I'm thinking these days. And this kind of the face or the expression that the model has towards something that's respectful or awe, I named this as a narcissist. And a narcissist, it means when a being or an existence goes into a place of holiness, and it means the respect and the honor that it gives it going into that realm of respect or that realm of holiness. So I thought that arch could actually mean something like a temple or like an entrance or going into the world of unknown but deep possibility. So I wanted to emphasize that through that, entering that it takes, courage and confidence and bluntness, but whatever that is, it blooms like a flower, and it kind of leads me into that realm of respect and going to the new world. And if you see the fishes here, I think I just drew them with graphite. I love having graphite marks that's kind of remainage as a sketch, but as the main lines, because I think the graphite look gives a sketched or undone or very free look. So I try to add some kind of graphite sketch or a line that creates some kind of botanicals or animals. And these are just, I think these were mix of washi paper and craft and scrap paper all together. I think the garment that I actually referred was a winter hanbok. That's why the lady had this hat on. Like my original photo of her, she didn't have any hat on. So I kind of made her hair as a bun, and I gave her like a furred hat. And because usually Korean traditional garment, hanbok has these wonderful vivid colors, I wanted to really mimic that sleeve that has colors. And I think this flower and this lotus is like the two big flowers that I put most layers on and put more effort in. And I love the color palette, how it turned out and became cohesive. I think that's why I was managed to do the other two pieces in such a collection, because I loved this layout of the curves, the arch, and the central figure point, and the very whimsical and feminine color palette. And this is one of the small works that I wanted to present today. And as you can see, the resin is up there in a fair amount, and it's actually not dry in the bottom yet, so I'm kind of waiting. But this is a very, very memorable piece for me, because it was one of the first pieces that I created after I switched my major to painting. And it's memorable because I just can't forget. It was my first piece out of like the 8 that I had as a collection. And this is called Self-Denial, and it was named after the things that I've been meditating back at that time. That's already a year ago. Can you believe that? It's already a year. And I was going through like a season of kind of self-doubt and fear about switching majors and going into a new direction and using paint again. And I decided to really just self-deny the part where I am just doubting myself and not being confident of my talents. And I realized it's difficult to switch gears and try something new or something that you love so much that you're scared of, but I was excited to go into that. And I think the energy that this piece has, especially how the figure is kind of flying away, and this composition was actually created by paint and created by the collage, because originally it was a photograph of her just standing. and it seems like she's just bursting out of darkness, bursting out of things that's holding her or chaining her, and that really represented of the stage that I was going through. And here it works the same as I usually do. It's paper collage and different, I have, this is when I actually started, use pressed flowers, and it's fabric. This is just a floral fabric. And it actually had this green color in the beginning, but I had my final layer with this dark salmon color, which I love. And this skirt was, it has a lot of paper under it, but it was created by that collaged material and just paint. And I just love how this diagonal composition just breaks that steadiness of the vertical alignment, and I tried to bring that a lot, and I tried to actually mimic my work myself in the until now, really something that kind of looks like this, but I never got to copy myself. Like original work, it's so hard to copy. But this is really one of my favorite works that I always go back to when I am kind of struggling or wanting to know where I'm going, and I really appreciate that this work is still hanging there, and yeah. So this is another work that is in similar size with the one that you just saw. It's worked similarly, but it actually has, I believe, cold wax on it as a finisher, and it just takes forever to dry. I think it's so, I think it's a bit dry. I think the third one that I'm going to see, the cold wax, is still not dry. And in fact, this is the same model, the same photograph that I used. Her name is Margot, and this one was used, I used the same fabric, but in this case I cut out the floral part of the fabric and wanted to create a garden. And I just love the concept of growing just all the time. It just comes back to me all the time, because I think it resembles flowers and humans together, and also nature, and that we always go back to nature. And I love the concept of growing, blooming, flowers, botanicals. And it was a photograph where she was kind of sitting in the midst of dandelion bushes, and I got the image from the photograph straight away and decided to create that in a painterly way. And I also added this halo laterwards, I think, even though halo does mean or represent some kind of classical or sacred meaning of the figure, especially in religious painting. But I also wanted to, give respect and give beauty and kind of a sacred emphasis on females and the dignity of just humans. And the technique is the same. I think I have a lot of collages down here, and I covered it with paint. Of course, the photograph comes in first, but after that, if you see the textures here, they are modeling paste. Back then, I didn't use plaster. I only used modeling paste, and especially for the hair too. If you see the roughness of the texture, it's modeling paste, and when it dries, it creates that crusty look, and I usually use that with hair a lot. And I would paint over it, and I love how it creates like a crack or like a really rough surface. And after the surface, I love to really pull that surface out with paint and create a whole new garden or landscape. All right, so this is my last work to show today, and this had a lot of cold wax on it because, oh, I think it's still not dry here. I am still kind of exploring with finishers, and if you see that white bit over here, it's cold wax. That's not dried yet. But cold wax is kind of beautiful. It's like kind of having wet encaustic on top of your work, and it creates that kind of foggy, smoothie look at the finish. So I don't know if you realized, but my recent work with the lady with humbug on it, the bird was actually inspired by this piece. I wanted to incorporate birds more to represent liberty and freedom, and this was the piece that had the original bird on it. And let's see. So this was a portraiture photography with a clothing. So this part is actually like photography. It was a laced garment that my friend designer created and borrowed me for the shoot. And I really adored that garment, so I wanted to leave that as it is. And I loved how it created a new kind of interesting shape as a garment. So I left it there. And rest, I went with turquoise first and then created a orange ground to match her hair. Originally she kind of had a dark red hair, dark brown hair, and after that I had white paint just with a lot of water, just drip, 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 just keep dripping until this was kind of white like this. It was originally just like turquoise, but I just love how dripping paint creates that natural gradient between colors, and I just left it as it is. I never blended with my brush. It was blended as it is by water. And like I mentioned before, I wanted to add some kind of graphite element here, so I added pencil work as a branch that kind of grows from her, and this is remainage of some dried flowers, actual dried flowers. I think they're baby's breath, and I added them to kind of represent how if we become the artist who create like a world, it's like creating a heaven, and when we create the heaven that people could come see and rest on our artwork, I believe there's power where people, not only people, but things in the matter could come and sit on us, and the flowers will bloom also. I just think it's a very beautiful metaphor. And the face is actually, most of them are just remaining as it is as the original photograph, but I added oil pastels and color pencil to really emphasize the makeup and her contours. And this kind of pearls, it was originally on the photo too. I added pearls on my models' faces for a really long time if you see my old photos, and I just wanted to emphasize that to metaphor that she is a pearl and a beautiful being.